Terrence Crawford weighed in at 139.2. The WBC, WBO, Ring Magazine, 140-pound champion. And Felix Diaz is weighed in at 139.4. Now, here's what I noticed. A lot of people are not giving Felix Diaz a chance to win, but I feel he's a very good fighter. Also, something different Terrence Crawford has seen at this point in time in his career. So, for example, Felix Diaz, even though he only has 9 KOs, if I'm correct, he is a very mobile fighter. And the only defeat on his record is a fight where people are still up in the air about. For example, the Lamont Peterson fight. You know, Felix Diaz was more of the boxer. Lamont Peterson was more of the pressure-fighting power puncher, which he is now. So remember, as I talked about, or if you don't, in previous videos, is that judges judge off of, each judge has a different criteria. It's some judges that may like, you know, slugfest, Mexican-style boxing. There's other judges that may look at that Mexican-style boxing and slugfest and say that's not the sweet science. So that's as deep as I'm going to get into that. But the point I'm trying to make is I feel that Felix Diaz can bring on a different style than Terrence Crawford has seen, and that could cause Terrence Crawford some trouble. Now, here's something interesting. I got a chance to interview Terrence Crawford yesterday, and I asked him, has he had a chance to watch and study Felix Diaz, and what type of style is he going to use against a fighter who can use as much movement? So he said Victor Postol did the same thing. But I think to myself, oh, wait a minute, you were doing a lot of moving in that fight. Remember, go back and watch the Victor Postol fight. I enjoyed the fight, but and it was a good fight because we saw a different side of Terrence Crawford that we haven't seen. Now, we know he can fight, he's a right-handed fighter, but he can fight southpaw almost effortlessly. It takes him about a round, maybe 2, to get adjusted once he turns to southpaw, and he leaves himself open for some shots. But also, we saw that he can fight being, you know, a mover and keep that movement up for 12 rounds. There's not one fight we've seen with him that he's gassed out. You know, so now we're going to see a fight. I'm going to be there, by the way. We're going to see a fight where Felix Diaz is I'm guessing, going to do a lot of movement, and Terrence Crawford, we're going to have to see his ability to cut off the ring. So if you really, you know, ask my opinion, I'm going to go ahead and say that that Felix Diaz, in my personal opinion, you know, maybe Victor Postol, but he's a better fighter than Tomas Delorme, a better fighter than Ray Beltran, a better fighter than Dirijan, a better fighter than Hank Lundy, you know, and damn sure a better fighter than John Molina, you know. But when it comes to, you know, Yorkis Gamboa, well, as you know, Yorkis Gamboa's career is pretty much done now. We don't know what's going to happen with him. His career hasn't been the same, you know, since his name was involved in that steroid, you know, scandal that came out, what, a few years, or now several years back. You know, so I really feel, you know, after watching, you know, several of Felix Diaz's fights, and remember, he's a Heyman fighter, a DeBella fighter, and what you've noticed is he's often going into a lot of his fights as the B-side. So when you look at the Lamont Peterson fight, he was the B-side. That fight was on NBC, by the way. Was that a midday card? It was PBC on free television, NBC, by the way. Then he fought Sammy Vasquez. He went to the Dominican Republic, a place that he hasn't fought in a few years, to fight, I guess, a stay busy fight against this Levi Morales guy. So looking at his resume of names, you know, that you should know of, you know, Adrian Granados, who just had that controversial, somewhat controversial. I feel Broner won, but barely. He had that controversial defeat to Adrian Broner. He fought Adrian Granados, meaning Felix Diaz, in November 2014. He fought Gabriel Bracero, a very well-known name in that New York area, you know, boxing scene. Then, of course, he went on to fight Lamont Peterson. Only lost on his correct majority decision. A lot of people feel that he lost that fight. I'm still on the fence with that. But either way, you know, he fought an excellent fight. When you look at the Sammy Vasquez fight, you know, he won that fight clearly, and it was looking like they were on their way to try to rob him again. As you know, recently, he just got knocked out, you know, viciously, brutally, meaning Sammy Vasquez, by Luis Collazo. And one thing you notice about a lot of these fights that I'm talking about, he's been fighting these fights at 147 pounds. So this is his first fight since he fought Adrian Granados in November of 2014. Now remember, that's damn near you might as well say we're going on 3 years now that he hasn't fought at the 140-pound division. So looking at majority of his career, from what I can see here, looking at his resume, he's only had, one. This is his second fight, fighting at 140 pounds. Now, that's not saying he hasn't weighed in at 140 pounds, but, so far, according here to BoxRec, he weighed in at 140 twice, 3 times, 5 times now, or 140 or under. But his opponents have always been 140 or above, which means that's the welterweight division, the 147-pound division. So looking at him, he's a short fighter, about 5'5", but he does have some girth to him. And also you have to factor in that he is 33 years old, so the time is now for him to start, making some moves. So it's like this. I really feel that this is a 60-40 fight for Terence Crawford, but however, I'm not sleeping on Felix Diaz. It all depends on a different style of Terence Crawford we're going to see as far as him cutting off the ring. You see what I'm saying? Because Terence Crawford didn't have to cut off the ring against John Molina. John Molina wasn't doing no moving. When it came to Victor Postol, we saw that Terence Crawford was doing a lot of the moving. And having Victor Postol have to come in and try to, get him. Hank Lundy, no. Gary Jean, no. Tomas Delorme, Ray Beltran, Yurkis Gamboa wasn't fucking around. He was right there in the pocket with him. You see what I'm saying? And cracking it. Ricky Burns, Andrei Klimov. So, looking at the resume, you have to say, okay, well, this fight is interesting because this is a different type of fighter that Terence Crawford has fought before, right? So, I got to wrap this video up soon. But like I said, I'm going to be at the fight tomorrow. So which means it's going to be a post-fight press conference. And, of course, we're going to have some interviews and everything like that. Also, I have to do some writing because I'm going to the fight as a writer. So, I got to do a lot of updates and everything on social media and on the website. So it's going to be a very busy night. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go clean myself up, get all this cut off. I got all my stuff being washed and in the dryer, my Fight View 360 gear, And, I'm glad you guys are being patient with me and getting tired of people just not understanding what's going on. After I keep telling them is that, listen, it's not a race. It's a marathon. I haven't won the war. I may have been winning some battles, but, it just keeps going. So as you can see, I'm making some advancements. And don't think that I'm spending all this money, putting all this time and effort and all these things behind the scenes to not do videos, right? The goal is to get everything in place so I can do videos, send people to fights, and cover the sport of boxing effortlessly. That's why if you go look at my social media, I've purchased a lot of equipment, lighting, and understand, everything is not together yet. Everything is not in sync. I'm still learning everything. So you may think this is the finished product. No, it is not. The only reason why it's not the finished product, why, is because I got to learn all of this stuff now. But the whole point is we're getting to a point where we're going to be covering the sport, like not only being innovative, but making sure that you get all the information you need, so we're closer than ever. I'm Teacher Controversy. This is Teacher Controversy Live. I cover every single major fight live. Please subscribe.